Park Jimin left BTS. That sentence alone is enough to shake the emotional foundation of millions of fans around the world. But what really happened behind this monumental decision? And how could a personal moment between Jimin and Jungkook, two icons long known for their warmth and unity, turn into the most heartbreaking symbol in the history of this legendary group? Jimin, the BTS member long known as the group's walking emotion, made an unexpected move. He didn't leave through an official statement, not through a live stream, not even with the grand stage usually accompanying major shifts in the K-pop industry. He left quietly, but the impact echoed loudly. So loudly, in fact, that Jungkook, the golden magne who usually appears strong and mature, was reportedly unable to hold back tears in his friend's embrace. What made a Jimin, who had been the emotional gravity center of BTS, decide to walk alone? Loyal fans are certainly no strangers to Jimin's journey in the group. He is a soft yet strong energy, a bringer of emotional atmosphere that's hard to match. But in the past 2 years, new patterns began to emerge. Jimin began to appear less in group promotions, his appearances became more withdrawn, and his involvement in big projects seemed to dim. Fans initially thought it was just a rest phase, part of a strategy, or maybe simply a personal need. But like smoke slowly forming a shadow, the signs could no longer be ignored. Several reports mentioned that the change wasn't merely due to fatigue or a break, but stemmed from creative tensions that were becoming increasingly unavoidable. Jimin, according to some internal sources, wanted a new direction, more personal, more honest, and more minimalist. He was said to want to create works that touched hearts, not just broke records. But the label, like many large industries, of course, had its own vision. Spectacle, virality, numbers. That gap grew slowly. And like a crack that quietly spreads, suddenly everything broke in one moment. Jimin announced his desire to stand alone. Even though the word leave was never explicitly uttered, the tone of the statement was enough to freeze the global comment sections. And then came the moment that etched it into history. Jungkook, in a closed training session, suddenly cried in Jimin's embrace. According to eyewitnesses at the agency, the atmosphere at that time was very silent, as if the world stopped for a moment. No words, just a hug, just sobs. A moment that couldn't be described with ordinary narrative. Jungkook, who had always been the face of BTS's optimism, lost control of his emotions. He cried not just because his friend left, but because he knew what was sacrificed for such an expensive freedom. So, is this really the end? BTS has always built their identity on the values of family and loyalty. But individual growth is an inevitability that cannot be avoided. Jimin didn't leave due to conflict, but because of the courage to uphold an artistic identity that was increasingly drowned in corporate dynamics. Fans realized this, and many responded with empathy, not anger. But of course, not everyone could accept this easily. Cyberspace exploded with speculation. Is this a sign BTS is disbanding? Will Jungkook follow? Is Jimin really not coming back? These questions flooded forums, social media, and fan discussion rooms all over the world. Every Jimin post was analyzed like evidence in a forensic investigation. Old photos of Jungkook and Jimin resurfaced, as if searching for any trace that could give meaning to the overly loud silence. Then came Jungkook's post on Weverse. If you hurt him, you hurt me too. One sentence. No name. No context. But the world had already read into it. Thousands of comments flooded the post, some asking, some crying, some angry. But one thing was clear. The message felt very personal and very real. What exactly does Jimin want to achieve? According to some industry analysts, Jimin's decision could mark a new phase in the evolution of South Korean idols. He didn't just want to be a soloist. He wanted to create space to be human, not just an icon. A small-scale concert, without grand choreography, just music and stories. That's what he longed for. Something that may sound simple, but greatly contradicts the industry expectations formed over years. This is where the biggest clash happens, between the desire to be authentic and the pressure to stay relevant. Park Jimin chose authenticity, but this step isn't light. He left comfort, guaranteed fame, and the connections he built for more than a decade. He left BTS, not as an act of betrayal, but as an act of sacrifice.
And Jungkook?
He wasn't angry. He didn't resist. He just cried because he knew this was a farewell born from love, not conflict. Now the world waits. Is this the start of a new path? Will Jimin perform with truly experimental works outside the K-pop zone? Will he and Jungkook collaborate on a project together, as widely speculated by various fan theories? No one knows. No one can be sure, but one thing hasn't changed. Jimin's emotional influence in BTS will always be there. He may not appear in every group promotion, may no longer stand with 7 people on stage, but every song he once sang, every gaze he ever gave, will continue to be part of the BTS narrative that can never be erased. Even in his departure, Jimin never truly left. He only moved from the center of the stage to the center of memory. And for many fans, that is even more eternal. Now, the ball is in the industry's court. Will they give room for artists who choose honesty over calculation? And for us as viewers, are we ready to support artists not only when they shine, but also when they search for new meaning beyond the spotlight? Park Jimin did not leave BTS because he gave up. He left because he wanted to live. And maybe that's where he'll truly shine. But behind the roar of emotion and the flood of speculation, we need to pause for a moment and ask the most fundamental question. Did all of this really happen? Or are we part of a grand narrative built to trigger engagement, boost media traffic, and unconsciously increase public consumption of the K-pop industry? Many parts of this story are indeed touching. Very touching, even too perfect not to touch. But let's examine together. Is there concrete evidence that Jimin really left BTS? Did Jungkook's tears in Jimin's arms really happen? Or is it just a story gone viral from emotion, not fact? It's important to know, most of the information forming this narrative comes from digital platforms like TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and various entertainment media channels. Many do not cite verifiable sources. In fact, many narratives come from edited videos, fan theories, or anonymous comments crafted to appear real. But are we satisfied with just appears real? Think about this. If there's no official statement, no video or image, no confirmation from the label or the artists themselves, what are we really believing? Facts or sensation? A reflective attitude is very necessary in situations like this. We cannot and should not completely surrender our logic to the tide of mass emotion. What if this is all just a veiled publicity strategy? What if the Jimin leaving BTS narrative is just a distraction to build anticipation for a new project? Or more provocatively, what if this is just a hoax, reinforced by social media algorithms designed to amplify what most triggers engagement, not truth? Then how should we behave as fans? As information consumers? As humans living in the age of content overload? Let's look back for a moment. In modern entertainment history, we've seen sensational news denied shortly after too often. We've also witnessed how social media can steer public opinion without sufficient fact verification. Are we experiencing something similar now? Did Jungkook's crying moment truly happen? Or was it just a narrative snippet emotionally developed by fans and spread without filters? Did Jimin truly feel creatively constrained? Or is it just an overinterpretation of his delay in releasing a solo project? Was Jungkook's post saying, "If you hurt him, you hurt me too," really directed at Jimin? Or was it just a form of personal expression we forced to fit the narrative we wanted? Each of these questions matters, because one thing we must not forget: emotion is not evidenced in an era where algorithms are the main editors of what we see and believe. We must maintain healthy skepticism. Not everything that touches the heart is true. Not everything that goes viral is reality. And not everything believed by many should be considered truth. Volume does not equal validity.